January 23rd school board meeting to order, and everyone please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, 3.0 is roll call school board members. Everyone's present. It looks like Perkowitz is absent. For now, I did not hear from Superintendent Coleman.
They have a basketball game tonight at
Oh,
GGF.
okay, well, there we go.
Yep.
Why he's absent. So
Yep.
we do have a quorum. So
Hopefully they are going to play well. So
let's move on and let's go to 4.0 communications and reports. 4.1, the first one is the finance update. So Amanda, it's all yours.
There we go. Okay, so I'll start with the budget to actual. And so just a quick note, the amended budget or anticipated amended budget is not in there. Hopefully it'll be in there next month. We're getting close. There's just lots of things going on. So it'll get in there next month, I think. For revenues, a couple things I wanted to point out. Federal revenues were at 437,000, which is quite a bit more than where we were in the past. But I did want to point out of that balance, 307,000 are COVID funds. So those are, we will receive them likely next year as well, but then they will be used up at that point. Property taxes, the next line down is a little bit lower than prior month or prior years. And we've talked about that in the past. It's just due to change in the levy, and our debt service funds have higher balances to pay for our debt service payments. And then in the local and other revenue, a lot of that is interest. We're making a lot more interest than we have in the past 2 years. So that's great. We also have our concession revenues are up, and we've sold some equipment. So those are kind of the larger things that are the changes from current year to prior years. And then on the expenditure side, I just had a couple notes. The equipment line, similar to prior months, it's computers, but then we also have the renovations at Central Middle School are in that line. And I don't believe we would have had a budget for that for our original budget.
yeah, and we will be able to access some funds there hopefully. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the debt service line, there's no budget there. That's just a change in standard. So the budget was done before we knew exactly how things would flow in the state guidelines of how things had to be. So that'll get updated in the amended budget. And then a couple notes on these smaller funds. So the food service fund was up a little bit from prior year. A lot of that is due to parents paying for accounts. So those are accounts in advance. Are the current year is substantially higher than where we were at in the prior year due to free meals in the prior year. And then the debt service fund, as I mentioned before, is higher just due to the changes in our debt service payments and how our state aids and levy dollars are allocated. The food service fund expenditures, I just took a look at those, and I think this is one of the first months that we can really see the difference in our increased food costs and supplies. So they're up about $26,000 from the prior year at that point in time. So that's probably something that will continue to trend as costs of those things are higher. And then the last note I had was the debt service funds, just differences in prior years. And then that's just due to the bond structures of what we were supposed to pay on our annual payments. So then the treasurer's report, I didn't really have very many notes. Our cash balances are very similar to the prior year. You'll notice the debt service fund has a very large cash balance, and that is because we make a bond payment in January. So the majority of that will be gone next month when you see the January amounts. And then I did notice after I gave this to you guys that I didn't update the MASLAP interest amount. It was actually 4.19% rather than 3.75%. And that's all I got. Any questions?
Amanda, or just explain to me. So last year we had money in a trust account,
Yes.
and what'd you do with that, or why don't we have that anymore?
So the trust account was the scholarship fund. That was not our funds. So
The
then,
foundation?
yes.
Okay,
So then they gave that to us, and just accounting wise, it's in the general fund now.
okay.
So we still have it accounted for separately, but in here, it's just in the general fund.
So as the foundation, my understanding, manages those scholarships, they will
put in a request to release those funds from us?
I believe they are just ours now, and we have a scholarship committee on within the school and are continuing with the same purposes
Okay.
of those funds.
Any other questions, board members? All right, well, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's move on. We'll just go to 4.2 administration and department head reports. So Superintendent Colness.
Yeah, there are no, first of all, Green Wave recognition. We were thinking we might have one tonight, but we'll have to wait till the next meeting. So nobody tonight, but we will have somebody there in February. Update from the MSBA Winter Workshop. First of all, it was nice to go in person and be able to go down to the Twin Cities again. And so Eric and Lindsay and Amanda and I attended that January 13th through the 15th. Amanda came in early on the 14th. The sessions that I attended, the opening session with Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, and Commissioner Jett, it was very good. It was Governor promised a lot of things, which he was politicking, but we're really optimistic that there's going to be increased funding heading our direction. The opening speaker, Dr. Adolph Brown, and all of the board members can comment too. He was electric. He was very engaging and he had a a great message. And I really appreciated seeing him, and he would be somebody that I would consider bringing in to talk to either our staff or area, or, bringing in local staff. So it was engaging and like I said, very, he was right on. I mean, I appreciated listening to him. I attended a roundtable session on rural law, and it talked about board meetings and handling, when people want to speak, public input, or if people get unruly. It was good. That was a pretty well attended around a little round table with probably 75 people trying to listen. And that was with Pemberton Law out of Fergus Falls. And then also attended one on Title IX complaints, which we're just not talking here like Title IX for athletics. We're talking Title IX like for human rights. So that was very well done by the attorney. So it was good to listen to that. Several of us attended what was Cougar Progress Time, which was basically an intervention time. Ada Borup West, they use about an hour every day for math and for reading interventions, and they group. And it's not just for students who need, that are struggling. They also have activities for gifted and talented and other programming. It's very well done. I went to a strategic planning session, and also knowing that our strategic plan is set to expire here on the 2023. So I talked to the person who is doing that now for MSBA to see if it would be possible for us to start that process again, and really like just renewing ours or, updating some things. And that would, she's like, she has openings, and it would be something the board would have to approve moving forward with, but we can have that discussion down the way here too. And then I went to one on cyber protection, and then of course the closing session. But I'll let Eric and Lindsay and
please address
Amanda
the board
make
members,
comments as well.
So Amanda, you have to do this conferences you have to share with, but yeah, I don't have to talk through everything, but just kind of a high level of what you guys went to, please.
Yeah, sure. Besides what Mike went to, I'll echo what he said in regards to Dr. Brown. He had a great message and very well received, and certainly things that we could take away from it. But roundtable, I went to a school board self-evaluation that was put on by MSBA, something I don't think we've ever done, but I think would be very useful for us to do. They said that there is essentially just an overview that you can do where you take a quiz or a survey, and then that's provided free. Otherwise, they can get more involved and walk us through that for a small fee. But certainly, I think something we should look into. And being that we have a couple new board members, I talked to her about that, and she said, I think giving it probably 6 months, just for everybody to get used to each other would be good. So something we might want to look into sometime this summer. I also went to one on Robert's Rules, which is parliamentary procedure, also by MSBA. Very good session, but I think it just reinforced that we're following procedures and doing the right thing. So although I didn't necessarily learn anything new, is good that it reinforced that we're following. So also went to the Ada Borup workshop on Thursday as well. I thought that was very good. Certainly some things that we could potentially lean on them, and maybe some things that they could improve that we're doing as well. So something I think we could look into in the future. And then Friday, I also went to one on best practices to counter student behavior issues. That was put on by Monticello School District and Risk Administration Services. They also have a survey or a checklist that we could do internally, just as far as some risk mitigating things that we could do that might curb some of the things that we've been seeing. So yeah, all around very good. Glad I went, and I thought the sessions were all well put on.
So I can work with you on the self-eval one for the board, 6 months down the line, but that risk one, is that something
I did get a business card, so it's something we can follow up on,
that
and
go through
probably safety,
the safety committee?
I would say.
So-
Yeah, I mean, we could evaluate if it's something that we could
Yeah,
provide,
but I
that we
think
could
if
get value
you
out of.
went to it and you think that it's good, I don't know what the other board members' thoughts are, and maybe the other two candidate, but if there's something that
Yep.
gets recommended, I think you work with those. Who's on the safety committee?
I am. Oh, wait, I was. I don't know if I still am.
Yeah, I
Can't remember if I gave that one.
remember.
But I know that you're not, but if you could just coordinate with whoever.
I'm on that committee.
You're on it? All right,
Yep.
run with
Maybe
it.
that's
Let's get
when
it done then.
maybe you took over for me. I can't remember
Yep.
if I stayed on that one or not.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Lindsay. You're up.
Okay, yeah, I'm really glad that I went to. It was nice. I went my very first year on the board, so kind of nice to get a different perspective, right? So I didn't know a lot of things my first time going, so kind of a different experience this time, taking different things away. So it was kind of nice to be in person, like they said, but a couple of things that I went to a Leading for the Future for board members that was put on by the MSBA, and kind of more of a plug for MSBA. Like, I don't know, that one wasn't super helpful. Another one I attended was called Back to Basics, lessons for successful ag, food, and natural resource education programs. So that one was put on by Minnesota Department of Education, and that one was really interesting. I have some information from that I'll probably kind of come back and talk to Steph Larson and Dane Chono, just kind of make sure that we're kind of heading in that direction. There's different sources of funding and different ways to kind of tie some things together between class and lab and work-based learning and career and tech student organization, stuff like that. So that was an interesting one. I also went to the Ada Borup interventions for reading and math, and I thought that was very interesting, well put together and well thought out. They're doing some really cool things. So I think that would be an interesting direction to take some of our elementary classes in. And then I went to a facilities, understanding facility needs. That one just kind of reiterated that we're doing a pretty good job there. I think, again, looking at it from being on the board for 4 years, kind of just understanding that we have a lot of that in place. So that was good to kind of sit through that one and recognize that our facilities committee is doing a good job prioritizing things, knowing what we need to do now and what we need to do in the next couple of years, but looking to also make some changes hopefully with preschool and things like that. So, and then the last one I went to was the Academies of Detroit Lakes. So that one was, again, kind of seeing them a few years ahead of our academies, a few years ahead of, I guess they've been doing it. Gosh, how long have they been doing it? I don't remember now. It's in my notes, but they are further ahead than we are. So kind of having a nice example there would be interesting to go there. I think Steph has talked to them a lot, but would be interesting to see their academies, and also Moorheads. We kind of talked about when we drove by, they have that great big building with all the academies in there, and just to kind of see hopefully where we're headed. But again, nice to be in person, and Dr. Brown was very awesome. I think he would be great if we could get him here locally. That would be awesome because he was wonderful. So that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Okay, so mine's a little different only because it was my first year and I had no idea what I was doing when I was putting a report together, so I apologize. But I didn't go to any roundtables. I tried, I couldn't hear anything, so I had to skip those, but I did attend the Minnesota Legislative Platform. They pretty much discussed the fully funding special education, increasing equity. They're requesting an increase by 5% each year to the basic education formula. And they also talked about fully funding school meals. I went to the transgender rights workshop. It was a very controversial conversation, but it was filled with cases that are current within the state that help me understand how boards and districts adopt their policies due to Minnesota law. I also went to the best practices workshop that Eric went to. They talked a lot about teacher burnout and things like that. And a study that they pulled said 44% of teachers are always or very often burnt out. And also that the staffing levels throughout the state of Minnesota have declined by 7%. I thought that was crazy. And it made me think of some questions like, how can we help our current educators in the district? Are there, and then another interesting fact was, Minnesota is the least punitive, one of the states that has least punitive discipline, which I thought was crazy. And I was wondering if that could maybe be why we have more behavior instances. Then it also raised questions about how often do we do class clearouts? How do teachers feel about classroom or discipline in their classroom? And then what are injury trends within our school district? Do personal or property destruction? And then the next one I took was threat assessments. This one talked a lot about a see something, say something culture. I thought that was really important. And then it also discussed the need of regular safety meetings and accurate record keeping to ensure the safety of the students and staff within the district. And then I also attended the superintendent evaluation workshop. They did discuss the do's and don'ts of superintendent evaluations. They stated that there are no laws when evaluating the superintendent, but they said that it is an effective tool for performance, goals, and expectations. And then lastly, 2 highlights of the speakers I took away was the quality of thinking impacts how we think. The better the learning space, the better the learning. And also the rate at which knowledge is changing is growing. The rate used to be every 36 years and now it's every 12 hours. So there's no way we'll ever be able to keep the rate of knowledge up with our students. Instead, we need to teach them everything they need to know so that they can learn and adapt and thrive.
Thank you. Lynn, you have any questions for those? I think one thing that I can add, it wasn't there, but you captured a lot from the risk management, the safety side. I think we got you in a good place on the safety committee, so
I got lots.
you'll be able to bring that to that committee. So.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for attending. And Mike, why don't we?
Yeah,
move
I'll
on
just
to
continue on here. Yep. Legislatively,
Too, so
what's that?
I'll jump in on that part.
Okay, legislative.
Go ahead.
Okay, and just, you know, I put the highlights in here from the governor's proposed budget. You know, we have to remember that's one piece. We still have to wait to hear from the Senate and the House, right? But, you know, we were all thinking 5 and 5, but his budget says 4 and 2 on the formula, 50% of the cross subsidy for special ed. There's a 25% for EL, universal free meals. And, you know, in some of the conversations I had down there with there were school administrators who were not in favor of that just because they would like to see that money go into the classrooms more. But, you know, that is in his proposed bill. Career and tech was definitely something that needs extra funding. That is something that about 15, 20 years ago, they started taken away and really reducing programming there. And I think we can see the effects of that right now with the some of our shortages with skilled labor. There is a bill out there that talks about additional funding for basically mental health support and student support. The one thing I did ask in a conversation that we had via Zoom with some of our representative or lobbyists is that don't tie our hands by saying that has to be for new hires. You know, we added 5 mental health positions this year using ESSER funds, and we will continue to do that through next year. But we really, you know, we're going to have to fund those positions in the future, and that would be a great place for that to go. But right now, the way it's written is it has to be for new hires. So we're working to get that changed. And then reducing discipline disparities. That was another piece of his budget. Level 4 proposal, that's not part of his budget, but I want you to know there was information that was shared with you that Tiffany Lippman prepared through the ASEC. It's a very well done document that we did share with Senator Mark Johnson and Representative Deb Keel. And we asked them that if there is a bonding bill, this is a non-bonding bill year. However, it sounds like there's potential that something could happen if we're ready to go to ask. The request is for about $8 million. And it would be a joint effort between schools that are in the special ed co-op as well as the Crookston School District. So if you get a chance, and Tiffany, we just met today on that, and you know, she may come in and visit with the board about that in case you were to have questions. But something that if you get a chance to see, if you see Senator Johnson around in town, please encourage him to help support that.
The only thing that I was going to add to the legislative, so the governor is presenting it, I think, on the House side, he presented in committee on Thursday morning. Everybody should have got an email from MSBA, and then Mike's always so kind to make sure that we get it twice. So, I mean, but just, so that's Thursday morning. I'll jump on that. And then watch your emails as MSBA's. I know sometimes we get, as Lindsay said, they like to try to sell themselves. But we are a member of MSBA. They got a lot of stuff going on right now during legislative. So, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays for sure, they have virtual things, usually at 8 in the morning, but Wednesdays are the board chair chat. It's not just for board chairs. So if you guys get those, jump on there. They're eye-opening. The ones that happen on Tuesdays, there's one tomorrow morning. The copy and conversation, it's just board members talking about issues. And then typically the Friday, at least during legislative session, is kind of a wrap up of the week. So they wrap it up. You don't have to go to them because they'll send an email. But if you want to hear people on there saying like, what are they thinking? This is ridiculous. We'll see what comes of his proposal, and hopefully not much, since it's all controlled by one side, but we'll have to see what happens in the legislative. I'll be
Yeah.
watching it from my role, and Mike will, but if anybody wants to join, or if I get emails of different committee hearings, I'll send them out to the board.
Yeah. I'll continue to share, like Tuesday morning, MREA, it's every other week at 7 a.m. The lobbyist, Sam Walseth, he provides an update. And then Friday is really, they move fast on that MSBA update. It lasts about a half an hour, but they're throwing a lot of information. I mean, it's very helpful. So yeah, continue to monitor that. I mean, this is, we're in unprecedented times right now with a very large surplus, and we're sure hoping that, some of those funds will head our direction. And some other things they said to keep an eye on in bills, this would be not dollar related or money related, is the school calendar is they're looking at potentially there's a bill out there for 2 state holidays, which Indigenous People Day on October 10th and then Juneteenth, which is June 19th. And they just wanted us to be aware that if that were to go through, it could impact like school board meeting times, because you couldn't have those on those days. And then paid family medical leave and summer basically unemployment compensation. There are bills out there that are getting serious consideration as well. And that's about all I have. I think I already put in there. I had some reminders in there about school calendar, but I think I better say that. We do have a school calendar committee meeting tomorrow. I'll talk about that under the committee side, but just a reminder, on this year's calendar, we've had 3 days where we didn't have school. 2 were e-learning, so we did have school, but we did use 1 storm day, and it's built into the calendar that June 1st will now be it's Thursday, would be the last day of school for students, and that Friday would be a staff workshop day. So that's written into the calendar, and so that is the adjustment we're moving forward with. That is all I have as far as my report goes, unless you have something or any questions for me.
Board members? All right, let's keep plugging away. The next thing under reports is I got 4.2-3. Looks like Mr. Nelson wants to visit with us on a flex schedule and share some academics performance data. Perfect.
We'll have to make
Have
sure
at
he
it.
gets we'll have to use that microphone too.
Carry it around.
Only if you
You have to
say.
sit this time.
Keep these drawn, do it from there, kind of colorful, I'll go through and try not to confuse with our schedules at the high school, not that bad. Our second year.
Just hold it down. There you go.
There we go. Okay, so the first page, folks, there has our schedule. Monday, Tuesday, Fridays, we have an 8-period day, and they're 45 minutes, 45-minute periods. Wednesday, Thursdays, most Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have our block schedule on. This Wednesday is going to be a shortened day, so it's different, but most Wednesday and Thursdays, we have our block schedule, and they are 84-minute blocks. Okay. And you can see, for example, on Wednesdays, we have periods 1 and 2, 5 and 6, and on Thursdays, we have 3 and 4, 7 and 8. In those block days, we have our flex lunch. It is a total of 1 hour and 6 minutes. Okay. The first half of that is when kids can go get help from teachers. You missed the test because you were sick, you were out of town, whatever, you're missing 5 math assignments, whatever you can work on, you will get flexed by a teacher on their student view. Comes with their computer. I want to flex you, Brandon. You missed a math test. You go to that teacher, you make up the test. Now you have lunch. Everyone gets their half an hour lunch. So the second half of flex, teachers eat and so do the kids. Now there may be some kids that never get flexed all year. There could be that case. Very possible. They get 1 hour and 6 minutes. A lot of them stay in the building. Some leave. They come back at 12:27. It's gone great for 1.5 years. That's why we love to keep doing it. And we're glad you let us do that. We appreciate that at the high school. Of course, our freshmen, it's new for them this year. They're already into it. They're 2 grades, no problem. A couple more years from now, it should be even better. It's working well. So the second sheet, one of the money colored ones, is a bunch of our data. Okay, so one that says first quarter 2019. So now we're talking pre-COVID. We didn't know what COVID even was at that point. So I call it a normal year, kind of the last normal year before COVID hit. You can see our numbers there in blue. After the first quarter, we had 19.8% of our kids in our school had 1 F. That's pretty high. It's way too high. All right. It continues down in that same blue one there, 223 total classes failed. That's high. Then we hit into COVID. The next year, okay, we were in hybrid, we were in distance, we were masked up, we were bringing in a wave group, a green group, same way in elementary. It was not well. It got worse. It went up to 21% of our kids failed a class. Then we'll go back next to 2021-22. So now we're kind of getting out of COVID a year ago. We're in that green color. It got better because we're back in school. That's the biggest thing. We think that as well. That's when we're starting also block. We started our block scheduling that fall and the flex time. And now the white part at the bottom, that was just this fall got done. So now we're 1.5 years into our block, and you can see our numbers are awesome compared to 3 years ago. You compare 2019, the first quarter, we had 111 kids fail a class. Now we have 66. So we're down from 19.8 to 12.4. Flex, being in school, huge difference, obviously. And then 145 classes failed. The next sheet is the most current one. It says end of the first semester. We just finished a 1.5 weeks ago. First half of the year is over. Same story in the blue part. Pre-COVID, 17.2%. COVID hits 17.6. Get out of COVID in the green, 12.2. And we finished, like I said, 9-10 days ago here. We're at 9.2, only 49 students. We have 532 kids. So we're looking at less than 10%. And total classes failed. You go back up to the fall of 2019, 192 down to 105. So our numbers are looking good. We want to keep improving them. The next sheet will be the third quarter we're in now, obviously. We don't have that data for this year yet at the very bottom. We're hoping it continues to drop, and I mean drop in a good way. And then also, of course, the end of the year would be that as well. Classes wise, the sophomores are rocking it. Only 5% of the sophomores had an F. It's 7 students in our sophomore class, 125 kids. They work their butts off, flex, and they're getting after it. And their staff's doing a great job as well too. So it's a combination of our paras, our bus drivers, our cooks, our administrators. It's a whole team effort at the high school, and I'm sure all the other buildings as well. You get the same story. Trying to think what else you can think of. Any confusion about the schedule? It's not that bad. We kept it the same this year. I told Mr. Laura, I said, let's do not change the schedule one bit. We're so sick of changing, and our kids like it. Our staff likes it better. We want to try to keep it from moving around, and it's going well. So we're just trying to keep things rolling and keep it positive. But You know, maybe it'll bounce back up again the bad way. I don't know. We hope it doesn't. It's pretty low. I'm gonna say that at 9.2 is a nice low number. And let's keep it that way. Let's get it down. I love it at 0. We all would, obviously. There's a lot of factors that come into play with kids having struggles and so on, but we'll keep plugging away and keep grinding away and see what happens.
So my two questions, I was actually just gonna ask you what's acceptable, but you answered that question already. I mean.
What's acceptable?
Zero.
Kind of a loaded question. Brent.
Well, I mean, zero is really
No,
our stretch goal, but I mean,
I don't-
below 10% that's a very.
I would think below 10% is probably acceptable. You get back up in that 15 range, 20% is too high, obviously. Yeah, if we can keep it at 10 or below, it'd be nice. That'd be a goal, and zero is probably unrealistic.
Yep.
But we all have realistic here, but
Or we can shoot for it.
yeah, we shoot for it. You bet we can. We're gonna try our butts off to do that.
So my other question that I have
Yep.
for you, so this flex, and I'm just putting myself as a parent. So
Yep.
What happens, so the teachers reach out to the kids, or the
Yep.
kids know that they can reach out to the teachers,
Uh-huh.
and they have something to make up. So what if there's more than one class on those?
Yep,
things? How
that-
does that work?
That does happen. You were out for a week sick or
Yep.
whatever, you were gone and you missed some things. Our teachers talk. So I flex Lindsay. Lindsay sees that I'm flexing her, then you're a teacher and you go try to flex her. It shows her that I flexed her first.
Okay,
Okay, now you can trump me.
Yep.
And kick me out of there. We're telling our staff not to do that. We've got to talk staff members and say, you know what? She's missing 8 things from me, 1 for you. Let me get her today. You can have her the next day. And that's where our staff have to talk.
okay.
And our kids can go talk to teachers and say, you know what? I really got a test to take from Mr. Colness. Can I go to him? Certainly.
Okay.
It's when there's no communication and they go nowhere, then they're commission, they're wasting time. They're wasting time to make up stuff, but it does happen. We're getting better at it. And our staff needs to communicate more. But it's on their computer. We tell our kids, do not trust your phones. But the synergy shows it perfect. And there's some snafu. Sometimes synergy goes haywire, doesn't work. And we'll just announce it and tell our kids, hey, do what you got to do. Staff just hold off on things. It works well for most part, but there's sometimes that synergy, right? Mr. Colt will go haywire on us once in a while, but technology is great most of the time, but we're working through it. There's some little things here and there, but for the most part, our staff's done a nice job on our kids. The kids know that the hour lunch is a gift.
Yep.
We don't want to take it away, so don't abuse it. Behave yourself when you're out around town, things like that, when you're running for lunch and they're going home and they're driving more. So they know to take it easy and don't abuse it because we want to keep it going.
Sure. Any other questions?
Sure.
Is that flex only for the core classes or primarily?
Everything.
Core?
Everything.
Okay.
You could get flex for Miss Divine's weight training class. You didn't
Yeah.
miss the max out. It's for all your classes.
How long do they stay on flex? Like, is it a whole semester or a quarter, or how long do they stay? Or is it just like a one-time thing?
You could get flexed once and it could be done if you get your math in, or you could get flexed every day.
Okay,
Yeah, and you could take care of it and you may never get flexed. So it's not really you're on it. And once you get your homework done, I flexed you for math. You're caught up, you're good to go. I may never flex you again.
okay. And then, when I went to the parent advisory committee meeting before I went to the training at the cities. And one of the parents mentioned that her son was getting flex, but she never got notified. Do you guys notify the parents or just the students, or how does that work?
It's in the student view, but the parents can check the student view.
Okay,
So the parent, I'm almost positive it does not go to parent view. But if parents want to check it, they can check their kid's student view. And we encourage that.
okay,
So, and I think.
Good question.
To add on to that, at least what I'm learning.
Yep.
There's, the parent needs to go into,
Yep.
parent view and set up the notifications.
Makes sense.
So there's a bunch of stuff that they can do in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you just have to play with it. Otherwise,
yeah.
otherwise you just open it and it's all
Yep.
there. But there's ways to set up the notifications.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so it's a learning curve for everybody.
Bruce, do you know how our percentages are in comparison to like neighboring schools?
You know, it's a good question. I'll have to bounce out to Thief River Falls and Crookston and the west side and see what they got going on in Whale. It's easy to do. I'll make a few phone calls. Yeah, you're right. I don't know for sure on that. But it's, yeah, what's acceptable? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it
Yeah.
20? Is it?
Well, nevertheless, your numbers are going down. So
Yeah.
That's right. We're going in the right direction.
Good to
so
hear. So
Good to
keep
go.
up the good work. So thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, let's move on. Doesn't look like we have any other reports, so let's go directly to 4.3 committee reports. Superintendent Colness, if you just want to update us.
Yep, just negotiations. We're still working on contracts for MSA paraprofessionals, administrative assistants, and then one non-group contract. I know that I will be communicating with one of those groups tomorrow regarding a meeting time. The other ones are not set at this time. Some information was shared with our administrative assistant group, and they're working through me on that, and then we'll move forward from there. So calendar committee, we are scheduled to meet tomorrow at 3:30 to its first meeting as far as building the 23-24 calendar. Looking forward to doing that. The calendar looks a little similar. It looks pretty similar to this year. However, we do have February 29th in there. Maybe it gives us a little flexibility, but in the end, if we can't start till after Labor Day, we really don't have the flexibility like we would like to have, but we'll do our best to, and really with the goal of, it says in the one contract, we need to have it done by May 1st, but it'd be nice to get it done in March or something, so we can get that information out to families and staff members. Meet and confer, we have not had to meet this year yet, but currently we have 2 other dates on the calendar. They are March 13th and May 8th. They're the same day as school board meetings, so we are set to, if we need to meet, it's 4 o'clock. So they will let us know if a meeting is needed. And in health and safety, we always meet on the 4th Tuesday of each quarter unless there's some conflict. So currently we are scheduled to meet on Tuesday, February 7th. We have been doing that via Zoom just because it seems to work well for staff members and board members, and it usually doesn't take that long, but we can adjust if needed. But right now we're scheduled, and usually they're at 1:30. That's what's worked over the last several years. So those are all the committee reports.
Any questions for the superintendent?
I have one question. When are the deadlines for like the negotiations with the paraprofessionals, administrative assistants, et cetera? Is there a deadline? No?
No,
We'd like there to be deadlines, and I'll speak as one of the negotiators. We'd
Yeah.
certainly like it. The longer it goes, it just means once you come to agreement, that's.
Okay.
So, and I can sit down this, and kind of where we are on some of those, but yeah, deadline, ideally for the negotiators, the deadline is give us a proposal and we'll be done with it the next day.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it like was.
yeah,
based
there was a
on-
time when in statute, like with teachers groups, that there was a penalty for districts if they did not settle within a certain time frame. But
Okay.
it's no longer in existence. So,
Okay.
good question.
All right, well, let's move on to 5.5.0, the consent agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to approve, and then if I can get a second, and then we can talk about, well, before we do that, does anybody want anything pulled out of the consent agenda? Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, so my discussion, rather than pulling it, I'd like to at least discuss one of our retirements. I think it's our only retirement on here. And that's Mrs. Volker, Mrs. Kathy Volker. She's been with the district since 8/29/01, and she'll be retiring in June or at the end of the year. 22 years of service to the district, and I believe that she's taught elsewhere too. So many more years of teaching and impacting the lives of littles. She's currently my youngest teacher. She's doing a great job, and certainly want to just know she's not done yet, but thank her for her years of service to the district. Anything else?
I have a question. Can I
Yep.
ask questions here?
Yep, question
Okay.
and discussion.
Okay, on these, well, like the hires, retirements and things like that, do they ever get listed like when people quit or anything or walk out on the job, or is that considered a resignation or how?
Mike, I'll let you.
That would be a resignation if they submitted a resignation.
Okay,
We've had terminations where people just quit coming to work too.
yeah, okay,
But yeah, I think usually, at least past practices, the way that we've listed them is it'll be part of board book. You'll see, they'll include, Nancy will include their resignation.
Okay.
So to list the resignations and then list the letter within. And At
Okay.
any point in time that we go through the consent, if you wanted to talk about something, now resignation, terminations and hires, if we're going to talk about that, if
Mhm.
you wanted it pulled, I'd probably end up closing it if we're going to end up talking about an individual
okay,
staff member, but yeah, you always, at any point in time, you can pull that. And
Okay.
then we'll decide where it needs to lie within the agenda.
Okay.
So. All right, with that being said, I had I made the motion. I think we got a second. We had discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 6.0 is opportunities for citizens to speak on items not on the agenda. I had none. Superintendent Colness.
There are no requests.
All right, 7.0 is to approve the agenda as it's uploaded into board books. So I'm gonna make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, questions or discussion on the agenda that was uploaded? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.0 is district business. We'll go to 8.1. That's resolution of the school board supporting Form B2 application to the Minnesota MSHSL Foundation. Cover's not here, but Superintendent Combs, you want to fill out the board in?
Yeah, so the foundation, they are funded through all of the, it would be sales tax for tickets that they, instead of paying it into the Department of Revenue, the schools are allowed through law to pay it into the league to this foundation. So right now, there's about $1.3 million, which is a pretty high number for the foundation to use. So there was round A with Form A that came out earlier that you approved. So we can apply for funds there. And this year for Form B, they have two categories. And so Scott is planning to submit the grant application there to the league, and hopefully we're successful, or to the foundation. But it needs board approval before we can submit.
I'll entertain a motion in a second. We can talk about it if need be.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, questions or discussion?
I have some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was reading it today and they were talking about it's for like leadership initiatives and safety aspects along with transportation. I understand that. But how would they help with leadership initiatives and safety aspects in our district if we get the grant?
Well, for example, AED would be one thing that we funded through these foundation grants that we stated.
They're not on there.
So we go to there's leadership training for our students put on by the high school.
Okay, so it wouldn't go towards any specific program or anything like that. It would just be for those types of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And historically, I mean, AEDs have been purchased through this, so that's been one of the main things. The part B2 is a little unique, or it's B1, excuse me. They put some dollars into that this year for schools who struggle to find funds to pay for their students to go to Together Make a Difference, which is a new initiative by the league regarding like equity and some of the problems we were having with sportsmanship, the ball games and those things. There's been workshops put on throughout the state. And they put one, the closest one to us, of course, is Detroit Lakes. So some schools are struggling to have funds to transport their children. So that's why they put that extra fund. You could access and apply for that if you were in district that struggled to pay for that.
All right. Hearing no additional comments, let's see, it's resolutions. So Nancy, would you call roll, please? Yes.
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 All right, resolution passes. 8.2 is to approve the 2022-23 seniority list. So I'm gonna move.
I'll second.
Okay, questions or discussion? I guess this is Amanda. any
I have
questions?
another question.
Yeah, go ahead. That's what it's for.
What is the seniority list? Like, what's the role of it?
Superintendent Comas?
The role would be that if we have to make reductions, right, we
Okay.
would use that seniority list to go through there. For example, if we had 4 math teachers and they were all tenured math teachers, and we would use that seniority list if we reduced a position.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And
That's
then-
primarily what it's used for.
Okay, and then probationary teacher is someone who's just like really low on the. totem.
Probationary teachers do not have continuing contract rights.
Okay,
So I think in addition to answering that, it's those seniority lists are part of our contracts too.
Mhm.
So a contract may call out per the seniority list.
Mhm.
So Superintendent Comas or whomever's putting it together is also working with those groups to make sure that, hey, here's what we got.
Mhm.
What do you guys think? And then again, the resolution that we made, it was last meeting that we do it every year in case we have to make cuts.
Mhm.
If indeed, that's what we'll sit down.
then you start from the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right, all those in All those in favor of approving the seniority list signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.3 is to accept the donations to the school district. I think we got a couple on there, so if somebody would be so kind.
I will make a motion to accept donations from the East Grand Forks Education Foundation to CMS for Barry Sachs for $5,425. A donation from East Grand Forks Arts and Crafts Council to Senior High for pack lighting in the amount of $3,600. And a donation from Lumber Mart to CMS for materials for benches in the amount of $1,338.52. For a total in donations of $10,363.52.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? Certainly thankful to those individuals who have donated to the district. All those in favor of accepting the donation signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 9.0 is payment of claims and accounts. Gotta pay the bills.
Yeah, I'd move to approve the payment of K-12 bills numbers 124,158 through 124,268 in the amount of $287,271.15 and no EFTs.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the bills that were uploaded to board book? All right, all those in favor of paying the claims and accounts signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 is board member comments. So start with you, Eric.
And no comments tonight.
Amanda?
I thank everyone for bearing with me for really speaking at my first meeting and I
Please
look
continue
forward
to
to
do
doing
so.
more.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, so that's, thank you, asked. And after we make the motion in the second and go to questions and discussion, that's the place for it. So
Perfect.
by all
Lots of
means.
questions.
Yep. See,
No comments.
Lynn, you got anything?
No, not tonight.
Nothing on my end either. So, thank you for those that attended and presented. So, appreciate it. Next 11.0 is the next scheduled Board of Education, meeting is February 13th, 2023 at 5:30. So if need be, if there needs to be a meeting in between that, because that would be a special meeting and that would just be whatever it's special about. So just that agenda. So that is our next scheduled meeting. And that's the reasoning why we had this meeting tonight, with such that large gap. So 12.0 is to adjourn the meeting. So I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, anybody want to talk about it? All right, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?